Afternoon, this is Lisa Loftus, and I'm here today with Jimmie Ratliff. And today we're going to speak on transitioning to post-secondary education. So, Jimmie, we're here today to discuss the process of transitioning to post-secondary education for students with disabilities. So, let's get started. So, families who are just starting to think about this transition, what's the most important thing that they should know?
So the most important thing is to start planning early. A lot of people kind of wait until the very last minute. We've seen that before. People come in and they go, oh, school starts in 2 months, and my kid's out of high school and we want to get them into college, and what do we need to do right now? And that's not a good time to start planning for this. So realistically, what you want to look at is beginning to look into the transition from high school into college at the time that the student is about 16 years old, so when there's maybe 2 years left of high school. Sometimes it's even younger. That can be more appropriate. And this time, whenever you start to look at those options, allows things like skill development and to connect with resources, and maybe starting to learn some of the soft skills that they'll use in college and in life in general, away from being at home with parents.
All right, we definitely don't want to wait till last minute because it's definitely a process. Yes. So what does that early planning look like?
So a key part of the early planning for a student who is looking at transitioning to post-secondary education is the individualized education program or individualized education plan, and that's the IEP. And students who have disabilities will often have an IEP in place that provides some guidance and some different measures, some different accommodations that is agreed upon by the parents, the teachers, the student, while they're in grades K through 12, that allow them to be able to have the fair access to public education. So it all starts with our IEP. Again, these can include post-secondary goals like education and employment plans as they get to the age 16 and older. Also transition services of the students, what they need to achieve to get to those transitional goals. Things like specific courses that they might need to take whenever they go into college or in high school, while they're still in high school preparing for that. Consider different types of work experience, and then even some training like we offer here in self-advocacy skills, where they will be able to start to take on the role of being in control of their own education. So there's a lot of different things to look at, and the IEP is a big part of that while they're still in high school looking to transition over.
Right, we always encourage self-advocacy. It's very important to be able to speak out for yourself. So how important is that for people with disabilities, especially students that are going to college?
So self-advocacy?
Yeah.
So self-advocacy it's really crucial, because whenever you're in high school, the school and the parents are generally making those types of decisions about your education for you, or have a very heavy influence upon that. Whenever you go into college, then a student becomes responsible for that, whether or not they have a disability. They become more in control of their process and how they're getting the different supports and things that they'll need there. But it's their job to be able to convey that to the university. So you might look at things like, do they have proper documentation about their disability for the institution? And each institution has maybe their own way of doing those types of things and different information that they request to verify the different types of academic adjustments or accommodations that needs to be made for that student.
Okay. And so the IEP helps with the transition to self-advocacy then?
Yes, yeah, so absolutely. So that IEP process can help students understand their needs. It can communicate those needs to people around them, educators, parents, other people who are going to start that are involved in that situation while they're in high school, and then as they transition out, they start taking ownership of their own education, like we talked about. And I know it's a stance that we take here at Dynamic Independence, but schools, parents, even students, they should all be involved in that IEP process in the high school times.
Right.
We push very heavily here that if we're involved in with an IEP and a student in K through 12, when we look at that IEP and we have meetings with all the parties, the teachers, the parents, the student, most importantly, that we want to have that student in there with us so that they can have a say in their education direction and they can understand the process that's going on. So it's very important that the students be actively participating in those IEP meetings while they're still in high school to learn some of those skills and learn maybe more about their disability or what their needs are and accommodations that they'll need as they move on into college.
Right. So we know that documentation is always needed in so many things. So for documentation of a disability, can a student just use their IEP that they've been using from high school?
So we talk a lot about IEPs right now, and you might think that the answer might be, yeah, you could just use that. But really, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it is up to the institution on what information that they'll need. Sometimes an IEP might be sufficient, but generally they're going to ask for some additional documentation. It lets them help better identify what kind of accommodations that a student might need, or different adjustments, maybe things like having more time to take tests or maybe taking tests verbally, things like that. So it's a really good, it's kind of a diagnoser of things that you'll need for those goals and things as you move forward. Also, students should research specific requirements for each college because each college can be different on that.
Right. How do students know, you just said research, but how would they know what accommodations they'll need in college, especially if they need something different from their high school IEP?
So colleges have different things like disability support services offices.
Okay.
And those DSS offices are supposed to be in every college and every school, post-secondary school, and they are there to offer resources for students with disabilities and to talk about accommodations or talk about academic adjustments and to talk about the different things that the student might need to excel. So students should connect with them early to discuss their needs and accommodations whenever that's available. Also, it's important to remember that those folks are there to answer questions, to find solutions. It's what they're paid to be there to do, and to make sure that you succeed as a student. So take advantage of that, of those types of services if you feel like you need them. You can't ask too many questions.
Right.
And if you can go to them, you can ask questions there, you can ask questions to professors, you can ask questions to folks like us for advocates here at Dynamic Independence. We can help research those type of things. So there's a lot of information out there, and you always want to make sure that you have the most authoritative information on it. So be sure that you ask questions around to all the different people who are involved in helping you to succeed, and certainly contact this Disability Support Services office in whatever college you're looking to attend.
Right. And you've mentioned several times the need for students to be prepared to take on more responsibility. So are there other ways that families can help students develop those skills before they get to the last 6 months or whatever before they graduate high school?
Right. So families should really encourage students to participate in things like independent living skills training like we do here. You also want to look at things like, that helps with things like self-advocacy. It also, and this will answer a question we had come up from Carl in the comments here, what if a kid wants to go to work and not to school? And we'll touch more on that in our next video that we do next week. But there are programs, and I'm gonna kind of put a lot of things together right here, but look at things like work experiences and internships. There are places that provide these types of skills to help with students. If you look at programs like DRS, that is a great resource. Any kind of vocational rehabilitation service like that, they can help with pre-employment transitions. They can help to offer different work experiences. Sometimes they offer workshops or kind of like camps that they have for a week or so at a time, to where students can kind of get a feel for different jobs that are out there and what they might be interested in. And identifying those employment interests early relates back to college if you do decide to go on to post-secondary education, because generally what you're going to be studying in college is what you're interested in doing in a career. So having that varied information on different types of careers that are out there or different interests you have, and see which one kind of clicks with you the most, that is the point whenever you can go, okay, if I do decide I want to go to work, I want to do this, but if I want to go ahead and go get some college, behind my belt and get a degree, I need to focus my study in this thing that I'm interested in, and that's where these vocational rehabilitation programs can be of great use in both of those situations.
Right. I want to add in here, I did have an experience with a young man years ago that had come to me, and we were looking for internship program for him. He was fixing to receive his bachelor's, I believe, but the final phase that he had to do for the subject that he was wanting to go into, he had to do an internship. Mm-hmm. And I do know that there were some obstacles that we had to overcome to finding him an internship. So I would even say if you have a child that knows what they want to do and has looked into it, find out if that is going to be something that they are going to have before they can graduate from that class and receive their bachelor's, associate's, master's, that you would find places that are going to be willing to do those internships, and what accommodations that they can provide for them before you've gone through however many years of college, and then finally getting to that last phase and that being a holdup from them being able to graduate.
Right.
So, and all that's it.
You can know what the courses will look like in advance and ask those.
But when you mentioned
questions.
Internships, it just brought that to the forefront of my mind. So
yeah.
This has some great information. Do you have any final advice for families navigating this transition?
Sure. Just remember that post-secondary education is absolutely possible for any student, regardless of if they have a disability. The key information is being prepared and to have strong self-advocacy skills, because you really have to take on a lot of this, a lot of your questions and things that you might have yourself at that point as you start to transition into that. And there are a lot of resources available to help, so don't be afraid to ask for support. If you have questions, call your local SEAL, call DRS, talk to your colleges, talk to the disability support offices in those colleges.
Yes.
And make sure that you are well informed, and if you have any questions, somebody's got the answer to it. Ask the question, because you won't know the answer unless you do.
Absolutely. And as always, you can call us at 918-335-1314, or you can visit us here at 1110 Southeast Frank Phillips Boulevard here in Bartlesville, or you can email us. My email is aloftus@dynind.org, or Jimmie Ratliff is jratliff@dynind.org. And then as an added plus, if you have any urgent questions or just want to know a little bit about us, what we do, or any of the subjects that we have covered on any of our lives, we're going to be at the Celebrate Giving tomorrow from 4:30 to 6:30 at the Community Center here in Bartlesville. And come out and say hi. We'd love to meet you and hear any input you have, or if you have any questions. So for this week, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you folks next time.